Hey everyone, it's Yue from the Strictly Broken YouTube channel, and today I have a Grand Blue deck profile post updated after Clan Selection Volume 1. So it's a Nightrose deck with a Beatrice hybrid, which you would always include in the Nightrose deck because Beatrice is the combo extender that the deck needed to perform just better. It lets you make the 5 column swing without having to pay an extra CB. So it's actually a really big deal, letting you use your column bar to do like a different line of play rather than using it for the multi-attack play. So you were playing Beatrice every time, but I am playing more of a hybrid build that is more involved with Beatrice because I find that Beatrice and the Vanguard skill, is a valuable asset to have, especially against like a deck like a protect deck, for example, that maybe they farmed a couple protects and then your Skull Dragon turn is just not looking so hot. Especially also like if they trigger like a couple PGs, they have like 2 or 3 PGs in hand. Your Skull Dragon turn doesn't look so hot anymore. Against like that applies to all decks, and having the option to go Beatrice if they're at like 4 or 5 can really seal the game in a way that traditional Nightrose couldn't. So I'll do the profile. Deck's really complicated. I might miss a couple fringe case explanation. I'm gonna try to be really thorough with it, but this, in my opinion, Grand Blue Nightrose variants are the most complicated decks in Standard / V Premium. It is the most. V is a fairly easy format in general, but this deck is probably one of the few that are real brain churners. Anyways, let's get straight to the profile. Starting up 4 of the Queen herself, Nightrose. Everyone knows what this does. So many people play this deck, and it is your boss monster. In this variant with Beatrice and having her be actually a viable Vanguard option, you are riding Beatrice. Sometimes you maybe ride Beatrice first to push when your opponent's on grade 2 when you go first, because they're on grade 2 Vanguard. They're only 10 or 9k, so you can do the Beatrice chain and it'll hit even past 1 defensive, so that's really cool. But other than that, if you ride Nightrose first, it's typically around the same strength level as the Beatrice chain, so you might as well do the Beatrice chain if you have the CB available. And I'm explaining things other than Nightrose, but because most people know what this card does. I can explain the combo when I show the Beatrice. In fact, I'll just show her now. 3 copies of Beatrice. So the new card from Clan Selection. First ability, you Soul Blast 1 when it's placed to call a unit not named Beatrice from your drop. That is how you set up your Nightrose combo, or the optimal Nightrose combo. And on the Vanguard, she has continuous. All your Ghosties have 5,000 more power, 5,000 more shield. Sorry, and you have the effect of when a unit is retired, you can counterblast 1 to downgrade into a lower level Ghostie. All 3 skills are relevant in this variant, this build. Some Nightrose builds just use her as a rear guard with Skull Dragon, and I guess I'll show the pirate ship now to basically make a 5-card multi-attack combo. I'm going to show it right now in the deck profile because this is your bread and butter combo where you're on Nightrose. You use cards to basically set up double Skull Dragon. You go swing, swing. Nightrose. These are in the grave. Nightrose will proc her effect. You're going to call Skull Dragon or Ghost Ship if you didn't have 2 Skull Dragons, by the way. It works. You'll call Skull Dragon, and the Beatrice will trigger her effect, Soul Blast 1, and you can call the Skull Dragon. So before you had to use Columbard in this slot, and Columbard unfortunately costs CB, but now you can do the whole combo with 1 CB, which is absolutely incredible. It means you can't really get CB denied from your full combo, which is really, really good. So again, Skull Dragon, Ghost Ship, everyone knows what it does. Ghost Ship is your value engine early game. To be fair, I find that once I had added in Beatrice and the ride down chain, I guess, I find that I like Ghost Ship a lot less because I'd rather just go full aggro with Beatrice on first grade 3 turn and then kill them on second grade 3 turn with something like a Nightrose. Usually that only happens when you open Navigator though. So, for the games where you don't open Navigator, I guess Ghost Ship is still really, really good because if you don't have Navigator, you can't really pop off as quickly. So, sorry, I put those away. I'm going to put these up here. Bam. So yeah, these are kind of like your boss monsters. That's basically what they're there for. And yeah, if one goes to damage, your game plan actually just gets actively worse usually, unless you heal it off. Next up, we got 3 copies of this new Grade 2 Ghostie. So you can retire 2 of your rear guards to call this from drop, and it has plus 5k on attack, and then it kills itself at the end of the battle, and you can countercharge 1 if it's the first time you use this effect this turn. So it's the first ride down chain for your Beatrice. You'll usually go Skull Dragon, ride down into this, which is pretty nice. If you're getting Counterblast tonight as well, the reason I run 3 of this one is because if your opponent is just trying to be a little bit smarter, I don't know, it's hard for them to be that smart because Nightrose actually retires your whole board. But who knows? You're in a situation maybe where you're on your Beatrice instead, and they CB deny you somehow in some shape or form. Maybe they also have like crit pressure. You're at 4 or something, and they're swinging with a crit 2. You have to PG the Vanguard or something. Some way to deny you from getting CB. You can use this card's effect to sack 2, call it out, and when it swings and dies, you get the CB. So actually quite important. It's pretty solid. Next up, we got 4 Greed Shades and 4 Columbar. If you're playing, I've seen some people cut Greed Shade down to 3. I'm all for that. I think Greed Shade is actually a lot worse than people think. In premium, you can get like tools that exceed far beyond the limits of standard, but in standard, Greed Shade, it kind of just gets it doesn't even plus, and it kind of just gets like whatever you're getting, maybe more shield, maybe a PG for a matchup that needs a PG, which is really good for that. But other than that, it's just a piece generating card, or a way to grab your Nightrose or your Beatrice on grade 2 turn if you don't have it in hand yet. And that's not a card that really screams 4 of to me in standard, at least, or V premium. Premium, it's a different story. Card's absolutely insane. I can see it being cut down to 3. I still have it at 4 because it's hard for me to, I guess, make that jump myself to cut it to 3. But I definitely find that having multiples in hand does get a little bit cloggy, especially because the deck post premium collection is actually a little bit more aggressive. You will actually just basically always kill people on second grade 3 turn. Greed Shade going long doesn't really come up. Finding those key cards like PGs and stuff. Columbard, on the other hand, absolutely incredible. There's a combo with Columbard. It's a Beatrice combo where you go, when you ride Beatrice on second grade 3 turn, you can just Soul Blast, call Columbard. Columbard Counterblast 1 sends the Negro Bone to grave, and Negro Bone. So Columbard would then call out Skull Dragon, right? So Columbard sends Negro Bone, calls out Skull Dragon, and Beatrice, and then Negro Bone would then call out the second Skull Dragon, right? So off of one Beatrice ride, you get double Skull Dragon. If I had the card, it would be much more clear. So you would Beatrice, Soul Blast, call this, send this to call this, and then this goes bottom deck, and then you call the second one. So Beatrice can basically by herself set up double Skull Dragon combo, which leads into the ride down chain that Beatrice does. So Columbard now has that added interaction with it in the deck, besides just being the absolute monster early game card to set up all your combos for later on. Card is super good, much better than Greed Shade in my opinion, without a doubt, and is probably the reason why the deck is so consistent. Another card that Columbard helps you get is obviously the Navigator, the best card in the deck. You open Navigator, you win the game like every single time. Games that are actually fair are great games where you don't open Navigator. The fact that if you open Navigator grade 1 turn, you're milling 10 cards, and honestly, I go 15 a lot of the time because once I go 15, the game's basically a wrap. All my pieces are in the drop, and I don't really want to go long anymore. I just want to have 15 drop, and then next grade 3 turn, they're just dead. Navigator's so crazy, so crazy. Sometimes sometimes if you draw Navigator, for example, on your grade 2 turn, you might actually really want to consider tapping 4 and just milling 10, and then sacking 2 off to summon Jesse from the drop. That actually line of play actually does happen. It really does happen. So it's a lot of minusing, but that's how good Navigator is. The fact that you can just mill 10 to 15 cards and set up double Skull Dragon and kill your opponent is why you should always play 4 with this card. Next up, 3 Negro Bone. This card is just like I said, there's that interaction with Columbard, which is really good. This card actually sucks though. Honestly, it's so bricky. I don't like playing 3. I want to cut it to 2. It's hard to justify though because it is that one of those cards that you want to mill. Like, you want to guarantee you can mill, and I think with 3 copies, I can almost guarantee I can mill it. Once you have 2, sometimes you get unlucky where it's in the bottom half of your deck, you don't get one. Then you have to pay CB to send it to drop, and it feels bad when you can just like hard mill it. So that's why I play 3 for now. But if there's going to be a change in the decks, definitely this going down to 2, because this card in multiples is really bricky. It doesn't really accomplish anything for the deck. Because you have other ways to basically do Skull Dragon play, and Columbard is a way to send this already. It's just pretty whatever to me. With that being said, it's still actually just really, really good at the same time, because you do get to summon Skull Dragon with this card, and any way to summon Skull Dragon is a good sign. Plus, Beatrice you don't have infinite soul, right? Very, very rarely will you have more than 3 soul. You only get more than 3 soul when you ride up again. So, sometimes you do need to use this because you can't afford to use multiple Beatrices to summon the Skull Dragons. So yeah, there's a couple things to consider there. 1 copy of, I don't even know what's called, Ripple Banshee. This card sucks. It's so bad because it costs Soul Blast, and like I said, you only have 3 soul to work with. You can typically resolve 1 copy of it, and that's the most you could do, because you do need 2 soul to at least do some kind of Beatrice play at least twice in a game. So this card sucks. Playing more than 1 is actually just an int because you never do double Ripple Banshee anymore. It's just a waste of a slot to play 2, in my opinion. Next up, 2 copies of the Grade 1 Ghostie that keeps the counter charge train going. So you're going to ride down into this, get a counter charge, ride down into this, get a counter charge. I only play 2 because other than keeping the ride down chain going, it's just a bad card. It doesn't actually do anything, and it swings for such a bad number that sometimes they'll even hit a defensive and it's not even going to swing anymore. So I don't think you need to play more than 2 of this. Opening it, this card is actually an amazing card to ride, all things considered, because if you ride this card, you can basically send Beatrice or send the Grade 2 Ghostie to the drop, and that's really, really neat. But if you don't draw it for riding it, you probably just want to see it in a mill, and you just never really want to play it down. So 2 of that is fine. Then 1 copy of Cyril. Cyril is the only Ghostie, other than actually just the only Ghostie that without any kind of boost or power mitigations can hit over 1 defensive trigger, right? It's perfect 23,000, so it hits over a defensive trigger. Then you can maybe make some plays with Beatrice to get a booster onto it, so that at least if your opponent hits defensive on your Beatrice turn, you can make some bigger columns. So I feel like every deck that hybridizes the Nightrose with the Ghostie ride down play should play 1 Cyril, because it does make those magic numbers that you so desperately need. And then 1 copy of Chappie the Ghostie, my favorite Grand Blue card. Yeah, kind of similar to Cyril, but it doesn't even hit 23. It only hits 20k. Very, very good when you ride Beatrice first, and maybe you got rushed, so you have like 2-3 counter blast. This card does hit 20 against opponents' Vanguards, which are 10 when you're Grade 3 first. So this card does hit past 1 defensive trigger. Plus, when you land on this card as the final swing, it will intercept on opponent's turn for a ton of shield. So, pretty good. Just a 1 of, again. You're not like a pure Ghostie deck, so you don't need to focus on full overkill Ghostie combos, but just having access to Beatrice, being able to do these combos against certain matchups or certain game states is pretty helpful for the game plan, just having that kind of flexibility. Like, you're actually not sacrificing much out of your Nightrose game plan. You still have the 2 Skull Dragons, the 1 Ghost Ship, the 1 Ripple Banshee. Like, you still have the entire deck's core set up, but now you're just adding more options to the deck, and I think that's really helpful and complementary to the deck's game plan. Finally, for triggers, I got this is fit. I think it does fit. Whoa, I pushed that really hard. 4 crit, 4 more crit, 2 more crit. So that's 10 crit, 2 Sentinel crits. I wanted 10 crit because crit on dragons is really, really good. It goes without saying. Being that big, if your opponent doesn't have PG, crit on dragons is just game over. Again, I think protect decks are the best at having some kind of flexibility in how they want to divide up their sentinels, because you get protects to your hand. So I do obviously play 2 PG still, so there's that. But because you ride up, you get a protect immediately. You can definitely justify doing some kind of spread like this, and I'm a fan of this at the moment. Because draws, everyone knows Grand Blue, you're going to deck out real fast, and draws become a huge detriment really quickly. Finally, though, I got 4 copies of the heal. Sorry, I don't know why I slow rolled that. It's just a heal, I guess, and starter here. One more thing to mention about draw, because you have Greed Shade, right? You can add it back. So there's like so many reasons why you shouldn't play 4 draw PGs, and you should probably be more flexible and add some crit sentinels into the mix. Whoa, that is a doozy. I hope I explained some lines with this deck. There's actually deck's quite complicated. But I mean, the play patterns in standard only go so far, right? It doesn't actually get that much more complicated, but definitely it's one of the slightly harder to play standard / V premium decks, because there are somewhat more complicated lines you can take. All in all, if you guys have any questions about lists, about some of the combos, I went through basically the 2 primary ones, the Nightrose combo and then the Beatrice combo that gets you double Skull Dragon on just Beatrice Ride. So those are the basic ones, and you can just figure out the other plays as you play the deck. Anyways, hope that deck profile was clear. I was dreading making this because it's probably one of the harder ones to explain. If you have any questions about plays and stuff, definitely just leave a comment. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. It's UA signing off. Peace.